All right, and we are live. Hola, ¿cómo estás? Mi nombre es Qierre McGlory. Welcome to episode 18 of the Qierre and Wesley Show. I am your host, realtor and author of the Blueprint to Successfully Selling Your Home, Qierre McGlory. Along with me, my business partner, my lender, my amigo, Mr. Moneyman himself, and Axia Home Loan Sales Manager, Mr. Wesley Oliver. How are you doing today, sir?
Excellent. How are you?
I'm doing good. Muy bien, muy bien. Yes. So, if you guys tuned in, I'm not just wearing this hat just to wear this hat. I'm not just playing with these maracas just to play with these maracas. Today, we are celebrating Cinco De Mayo. Yes, I know. Today is May 4th. It's not really Cinco De Mayo, but hey, we're celebrating anyway because we can, right?
Yes, we can.
Yes, and for all you Star Wars fans out there, because I'm actually sitting next to probably like the number one Star Wars fan I know.
Yes, you are.
May the 4th be with you, right?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect, right? Yeah, so Wes, how's your Friday morning been so far?
Good. Went to meet with our client.
Yeah.
And the notary. So she signed her final loan docs.
Okay.
So we're on pace to fund on that and get her keys by mid next week. So that's pretty exciting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I like working with you, Wes. You actually take the time to actually go and meet with our clients when at the signing because, I mean, it's a stressful time. I mean, being there, being with someone that you never met, because it's not like they know the notaries. It's not like, hey, I met you before. It's like, no, this person just comes up with a bunch of documents and hands them to, the buyer, the borrower, and have them sign.
Yeah.
And it's great that you actually take the time to do that. Now, these notaries that go out and sign, do they normally know everything about the contract?
Not usually. I mean, they're they're kind of point and click. You know what I mean? So they know where to have the buyer sign and whatnot.
Exactly.
They have a general knowledge of what the documents represent.
Mm-hmm.
But if there are any questions on, sometimes there are questions on particulars about the loan program or how things are going to be handled from that point or after they close escrow or things like that, that a notary wouldn't normally know. Today's notary, she's very young. She's actually a student at UCI, one of the youngest notaries I've met. So she's definitely one of those notaries that just understands where she's supposed to have you sign the paperwork and all that. But it's a very intimidating. It can be intimidating because you have a stack, like this thick of legally binding documents, and they're taking your fingerprints and putting them in books, and it's all very official. So I just like to be there so I can answer any questions so that they feel better about it. Like you didn't just kick them off, into the deep end.
Right.
They got it figured out by themselves. So
that's great. And the fact that they, they started this journey, with you, and it's like, it's just a constant reminder that, that I'm with you from beginning to middle to end. Right. You know what I mean? I appreciate that. Thank you for taking, the time out of your day to do that. Because a lot of, lenders don't do that. So that's great.
Yeah. And then the other thing is, lastly, I just always like to point out, especially the part where they're given the wiring instructions. I also like to just make sure that I drive home, because a lot of notaries don't. Right. That those wiring instructions will not change. If you get an email from someone appearing to be with the escrow company or anyone, that's part of the loan, whether it be your agent, the other agent, the loan officer, saying, hey, we've changed, here's the new wire instructions, because that's the new thing in the industry. Right, exactly. A lot of wire fraud being committed. And I've heard stories of people literally wiring hundreds of thousands of dollars to, fake accounts and things like that. So that's also kind of why I like to be there as well, to kind of drive that home also. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, actually, one of the disclosures that, our clients have to sign is a wire fraud disclosure. So letting them know that, unfortunately, wire fraud does happen. Right. And a lot of companies, a lot of escrow companies are actually, they do have protections in place for that. And one of the things that they do is like, hey, like we call, what I mean? Like, we're going to talk to you to confirm, that you received the wire, not to mention they have encrypted emails and so forth. But it's great that you actually do constantly remind them, like, hey, like, if you get some email saying that you're going to wire it this way, it's like, no, the same instructions you had before, the same instructions you use. So.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate because, although they're all working on being safer, there is no such thing as safe.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So, I mean, I don't care who you are, you can be hacked. I mean, we've seen Facebook being hacked, and we've known the FBI has been hacked and things like that. So even though the escrow companies are doing all they can to keep up with it and they kind of combat it, you know, like I said, it's just unfortunate that, you know, they're not necessarily having this conversation before the fact. Because, you know, the escrow person is not usually, you know, speaking with the client. They're just usually sending documents, requesting stuff.
Right.
So like I said, I like to verbally say it, because also when you're in the when you're in the purchase transaction or the purchase process, people are constantly shoving documents in your face to sign.
Absolutely.
Right? So you know, and I know that at some point they're not reading them.
Exactly.
Right. So you know, it's good to verbally, you know, go ahead and hit the stoplight and tell them what's important and what they need to know, what they need to look out for.
Exactly.
Because even if you put it on a document in bright red ink saying, make sure you read this, like I said, they're getting so much documentation. And then also, as far as the emails, because usually how they're able to commit this wire fraud is they're basically hijacking, well, they're obviously hacking into the email system for either a lender, realtor, escrow company.
Right.
And then they're basically sending an email, not from the same address, but if you look at the email, it looks exactly the same as the other emails they've received. So they have the same signature, you know, same font style, everything like that. The only thing that's not the same is the email address, and who usually looks at an email address? No one. You know, you just see the subject, you open it up. Okay, this looks like every other email I've received from, you know, Jenny with escrow company A. So here it is. So, okay, we have new wire instructions. So, you know, like I said, because you're in the process, you're getting so many emails, you're not going to look at who the email's from.
Right, exactly.
You're getting all this documentation. So, like I said, I just, you know, I believe that, you know, go a step too far as opposed to a step too short.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a philosophy that everyone should have, right? Yeah. There's never a problem for you to look twice for things. Right. Yeah, for sure. So, the untold story of Cinco de Mayo, right?
All right. Story time with Qierre.
I love that. Story time with Qierre. Perfect. So Wes, Cinco de Mayo, right?
Yep.
That's Mexican Independence Day, isn't it?
I've heard that before. I don't know if it's true, but I've heard that before.
Yeah, I mean, I still hear it. You know, it's actually, they actually did a study. You know, over 20% of people, you know, actually believe that Cinco de Mayo is, in fact, Mexican Independence Day.
Okay.
Yeah, but it is not Mexican Independence Day. Mexican Independence Day is actually on September 16th.
Okay.
And Mexican Independence Day was actually 50 years prior than Cinco de Mayo.
Oh, so it preceded Cinco de Mayo.
Exactly. Okay. So let's take a little walk down history, shall we? Right?
Yep.
Now, in 1861, Benito Juarez, a lawyer and member of the indigenous Zapotec tribe, was elected president of Mexico, right? Now, at the time, the country was in financial strife. Years of financial strife, and the new president was actually forced to default debt payments to European governments, such as France, Britain, and Spain were the top countries that they had debt on, right?
Right.
So in response to that, you know, France, Britain, and Spain sent naval forces to Veracruz, Mexico.
Okay.
And that demanding repayment, you know. And Britain and Spain were able to negotiate a deal with Mexico. But France, however, ruled by Napoleon III, decided to use that opportunity to curve an empire out of the Mexican territory.
Okay.
So in late of 1861, a well-armed French fleet stormed Veracruz, landing a large force of troops and driving President Benito Juarez and his government into retreat. Now, this happened in the certain that the success would come swiftly. The French troops actually had 6,000 troops, you know, and they were under General Charles Latreille de Lorentz, set out attacking Puebla de Los Angeles. So Puebla de Los Angeles, right?
Is that where the Dodgers play?
That's where the Dodgers play. Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Okay. The Los Angeles Rams.
Okay.
You know, so yeah, so that's that history, you know. So They went to the Puebla de Los Angeles. It's a small town in east central Mexico. From his new headquarters in the north, Benito Juarez, who is the alleged president, rounded up a ragtag force of 2,000 loyal men. Many of them they weren't troops, they weren't soldiers.
Okay.
A lot of them were just like
citizens.
Just citizens.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just citizens, and a lot of them were mixed ancestry. So all of them weren't just Mexican. You had all different ancestors there. You had all different races. And there was only 2,000 of these guys, right?
Right.
So 6,000 troops against 2,000, Mexicans and ancestry, just regular people. They weren't all military forces, right? Now, obviously, they outnumbered, the troops. But, when they actually went to that battle, the Mexican troops were actually led by Texas-born General Ignacio Zaragoza, and he fortified the town and prepared for the French assault, right? So on May 5th, 1862, Lorenz gathered his army, supported by heavy artillery, before the city of Puebla and led an assault. Now, question you probably are thinking, how long did this war last, right?
Right.
The battle lasted from daybreak to early evening.
Okay.
Yeah, so it only lasted a day, right?
Quick.
Yeah, like less than a day, exactly. And when the French finally retreated, they had lost nearly 500 soldiers, right? Fewer than 100 Mexicans and ancestry were actually killed in the clash.
Okay.
So for them to go up against a 6,000 person army and only 2,000 of them, and they weren't all soldiers, and for only have less than 100, casualties. I mean, this shows you, that was a better result.
Right.
You would think them being outnumbered, they wouldn't have had a chance, but they did.
Right.
So although that may not be a major strategic win in the overall war against the French, Zaragoza's success at the Battle of Puebla on May 5th, represented a great symbolic victory for the Mexican government and bolstered the resistance movement.
Okay.
Now, in 1867, thanks in part of the military support and political pressure from the United States, which was finally in position to aid the neighboring Mexico after the end of our Civil War, because during that time, we had the Civil War going, we were actually able to help, and France eventually withdrew.
Okay.
Yeah. So pretty much when it comes to the Cinco de Mayo, pretty much the country of Mexico doesn't really celebrate it. It's only really the Puebla. That's usually the place that actually celebrates Cinco de Mayo.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Yeah, so it's not really fully celebrated in Mexico. They celebrate Mexican Independence Day, which is September 16th, right?
Right.
Now, obviously, with the United States, we fully embrace this holiday. We fully embrace this culture.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like we made it ours. You know what I mean? It's interesting. You know what I mean? It's not like, you have to be, Mexican to celebrate Cinco de Mayo. Like, everybody celebrates it.
Right.
That's definitely one of the things I like about Cinco de Mayo. Not just because, you drink margaritas, have tacos, or whatever you do. Right. It's a celebration that's about having fun and joy. You know what I mean? Like, it's fun. Like, I mean, when Cinco de Mayo comes, it's not like, no one goes like, oh man, it's Cinco de Mayo, man. Like, jeez, man. I don't know, man. I just can't do this. You know what I mean? But it's not like that. Everyone always, has a good time. It's always something fun. They look forward to it. Yeah. Not to mention a lot of bars and restaurants make a lot of their money, on Cinco de Mayo and the whole weekend. I mean, like, some of them started today, the 4th, right?
Oh, yeah. You believe it.
Exactly. So, like, pretty much from, like, the 4th, to the 7th, a lot of these restaurants, a lot of these places, are celebrating Cinco de Mayo.
Right.
So that's, so that's definitely one of the great things about it. You know what I mean? And we're actually going to a Cinco de Mayo event tomorrow. It's called Local Brews. Okay. It's at the House of Blues. Oh, nice. You know what I mean? Like, they're going to have different like stations that'll serve like different types of local beer, local breweries here, as well as food, and they'll have like tons of bands performing. Right. Like, yeah. So I mean, it's going to be a good time. But like I said, everybody embraces Cinco de Mayo, so it's pretty cool. But when we actually started, let's see. We actually started, I guess, celebrating this holiday back in the 60s through a Chicano activist, they raised awareness about the holiday in 1960s. Mm-hmm. Because in part because they identified the victory of the indigenous Mexicans, such as Benito Juarez, mm-hmm. who was the president, over European invaders, mm-hmm. and during the Battle of Puebla. Right. So that's actually when it really started being, really celebrated in this country.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, and obviously now, you have, the Mexican folk dancers. You also have different parades. Mm-hmm. You have parties. You have office parties. Right. You have mariachi music, which is all probably going to be played, I believe, today, like 3 o'clock. Right. You know what I mean? So, we have all these things. So so pretty much the whole country, United States, embraces. And it's not that it just happens in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have celebrations going on all over the place.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like large festivals, Los Angeles, Chicago, Houston, certain parts of Texas. So you have a lot of celebrations for this holiday. So.
Well, we don't need much excuse to eat tacos and drink tequila, do we?
Oh, that's true. And us being, pretty much raised in Santa Ana.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, we were definitely able to, embrace the culture.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. So.
All right.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, I've never heard the entire story before. I'm sure a lot of people watching haven't heard the entire story before, so that's cool to finally get it.
Oh, for sure. Because I didn't know. I knew that Cinco de Mayo wasn't. I know it wasn't Mexican Independence Day because I knew because I had friends like, oh yeah, Cinco de Mayo, and they're like, yeah, okay, But then when it was Mexican Independence Day, it's like, all right, this is this is the true holiday. So I did know that the Cinco de Mayo wasn't Mexican Independence Day. It was September 16th, and Cinco de Mayo was based off of the victory of what happened at the Battle of Puebla between France and the Mexican indigenous people. So,
that's cool.
Yeah.
Good story.
Yeah, thanks.
So I got some industry-related stuff.
All right.
We've had the fun. I thought it'd be kind of interesting to go over. I came across this article online mm-hmm. about the 10 things that home buyers hate the most, or I guess the 10 pet peeves that home buyers have when they're looking at houses.
Right.
So I don't know if you remember, like David Letterman, he used to do his top 10. I'm like, okay, this is cool.
Oh, so yeah, I totally remember that. Of course, I'm not that young. That's geez, I remember David Letterman. Come on.
Yeah. So, and I'm sure a lot of you guys out there can attest to these. If you ever looked at homes before, or if you're looking at homes now, if you're in the industry, I'm sure you can attest to a lot of these. So,
right.
I basically, I'm going to refer to them as the 10 cardinal sins of home sellers.
I love that. I love that.
So number 1, dirt, grime, and filth.
Dirt, grime, and filth.
Yes.
Okay.
So if people are coming to your house to look at the house, to mm-hmm. potentially buy the house, mm-hmm. the first thing you should do, in my mind, is you should hire someone to do a deep cleaning. Clean all the cracks and crevices and mm-hmm. all the corners and things like that because, obviously, if I choose to buy the house, mm-hmm. then I can clean the house.
Absolutely.
Obviously, I can do that. That's not a problem.
Yes.
But you have to understand that buying a home and all that, it's emotional in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
And so that's just one thing where it's like,
mm-hmm.
Because right or wrong, they're going to extrapolate, the fact that all your counters and your blinds are dusty.
Absolutely.
They're going to say,
Absolutely.
If they didn't keep the blinds clean,
mm-hmm.
what else is going on here? What else did they take care of?
Yeah, absolutely.
So they're just going to, like I said, start thinking the worst case scenario mm-hmm. because it becomes an indictment on who the homeowner was,
mm-hmm.
and they're just going to decide that, hey, they didn't keep it clean, they probably didn't maintain it.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably a huge hole in the roof.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's probably ninja rats crawling through the walls.
Ninja rats.
Yes.
You gotta break that down, man. I've never heard that term. What is a ninja rat?
Like Splinter from the Turtles.
Oh, perfect. Okay, there you go. I totally know what you're talking about now. Okay.
But they're sneaking around in the dark. You hear them.
I like that. Okay, there you go.
You hear them in the walls.
There you go. They're sneaking around in the dark. That's totally what ninjas do, for sure. Okay, I got you.
So that's number 1. So obviously you should start with that. I'm sure that's something you do or
absolutely
your clients do before you list, right?
Well, what I usually do is I usually have my stager do what's called a staging consultation.
Uh-huh.
So she'll go around the house, obviously make notes about what needs to be done. And one thing she'll do is definitely, if it needs to be clean, then, she definitely recommends, hey, before we come to the market, we need to get this house clean, top to bottom. We need to make sure we make the best first impression. Now, a lot of the houses I've listed, I've been fortunate. A lot of them have been excellent, have been taking great care of the house. They clean it. And a lot of them actually have professional cleaners that come, every couple of weeks to keep the house clean. You know what I mean? So I've been fortunate in most situations, but I mean, not every situation. Sometimes, we had to call, a Molly maid and have them come and do a cleaning. I actually had them come and do a clean for one house I sold last year in Anaheim. So we're 1,600 square feet. We had Molly maid come. It was about, I think it came to about 257. Something.
So that's very reasonable.
Exactly. And they were there for like 3 hours, if not more. And they did a great job. So, I mean, for 257, you get your house clean. You're going to make sure it shows best, and all of a sudden you sell your house more than what you thought it was. I don't know. Get the house clean for $257. You end up selling your house for $5,000 more. I don't know, Wes. I don't know what to do.
So get the house clean, definitely. All right. Number 2. This is a big pet peeve. I've been in houses where I've experienced this. Odors from either food, pets, or smoking.
Oh, my gosh. Wes, do you remember the cat house?
I remember the cat house.
Oh, man.
You do not want someone referring to your house as the cat house.
Yes.
So if you've had, any type of pets, particularly cats, dogs, and obviously those animals come with odors. They just do.
Absolutely.
It's a reality of it. So if you can smell it, don't think for some reason that people who come to look at your home are not going to be able to smell it. There are quite a few different services out there that specialize specifically in odor removal. So if you have that situation, if you have animals and they're in your house all the time, it's probably a good idea to go ahead and just get that done.
Absolutely.
Just hire one of those services to come in, remove the odors. Especially like I said, if you're a smoker, if you have pets, and then also, remember we had this one situation before. The seller decided to basically go in the kitchen and cook a meal before the open house.
Yes.
And there was, the odor from the food was going through the house. You should probably avoid doing that too.
I remember that. I'm like, what? Say, I just had lunch. I'm like, we're going to be showing in like 10 minutes.
Have a bowl of cereal next time.
Or hey, maybe just go out to lunch. That's also an option too. But for sure.
Make a sandwich. But yes, that's something as well. So again, it's all about the presentation, and we're sensory beings. So we talked about the visual aspect. So you got to deal with the odor aspect as well. So if you have those smells and things like that, do something to take care of them, because like I said, if you can smell it, and in some cases, unfortunately, you can't smell it because you've been living in it.
Exactly.
You're used to it. You
go nose blind. For sure.
So you should definitely do that. Number 3, outdated fixtures and appliances.
Well, yes.
Okay, so I remember the last house I purchased, my current home, they had the 2-tone stove and microwave, and I'm talking like the white and black that I haven't seen in a long time.
Oh wow, checkerboard, huh?
I haven't seen that in a long time. It's like the white face of it and the top of it is black, and then things like that. And don't get me wrong. I mean, it may not be in your best interest to replace those things. It might be a situation where you say, you know what, the next owner is going to have to take care of that.
Absolutely.
But at that same time, you might also want to consider that as part of how you're pricing the home, or even providing some type of credit for something like that.
I mean, I like how you brought up the price of the home. Obviously, I mean, if you're okay with listing the home at a certain price based on the current condition of the home, then hey, don't worry about replacing the property. I mean, replacing the appliances. But if you're really looking to get more for the house, then you're going to definitely want to do something with the appliances. I mean, obviously, we're not asking you to change everything. We're not asking you to change anything. you know, but it's just to be aware of, you know what I mean? Like if changing the microwave and the stove may cost you $800 or $1,000, but that can net you $10,000 more,
right?
You know, then that may be worth something, you know. But I mean, if you're at a price where you can, if you have to pay $1,000 or whatever to do it, and it may not even make a difference of how much you're going to sell it for, and you can sell it for pretty much the same price and not do anything, it probably makes more sense to not do it. You know, if it's not going to give you more value. And I'm not talking about you pay $1,000, you get $2,000. No, I'm talking about you pay $1,000, you get $10,000.
Right.
So it definitely needs to be more of a true upside than just a little more, because what's the point in doing that?
Right. And then as far as the fixtures to me are like a tie, you know, a necktie, right?
Right.
So neckties don't cost very much, but man, can they make a suit?
Absolutely.
Right? I mean,
absolutely.
I remember back in the day, like every time I got a new tie, and it was a great looking tie, you know, all of a sudden people were asking me if that's a new suit when I go into the office. I'm like, no, but thank you. You know, but it was really the tie. So
correct.
Fixtures are something that are not very expensive.
Right.
But man, they really upgrade the look.
Absolutely.
On like a bathroom or a kitchen, things like that.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to spend a lot of money on them. You know, it's more about appearance anyway. So
Absolutely.
you don't have to go get, you know, a faucet that's made out of pure silver, pure gold.
Right.
You know, but if it's modern looking and, and it's newer and it, you know, it just looks good, it can really upgrade the look of your cabinets, your countertops, things like that. So that is something, like I said, that's very inexpensive that you might want to consider, you know, as far as trying to upgrade the house and kind of give it a different look, you know, as opposed to the older, chipping, rusted, or just ugly. Okay.
Right. Exactly. I mean, I mean, either replace it or possibly just take it down. Yeah. I mean, if it's not really giving you any type of value, what's the point of hanging on to it? If anything, it just becomes an eyesore, and all of a sudden the person will be looking at your house, and all they'll remember is that ugly chandelier.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want them to remember that. You want them to remember, wow, you know, I understand the house is not updated, but we can put our personal touch on it, as opposed to them walking out of the house and say, geez, that ugly chandelier in the kitchen.
Right.
I just can't stop talking or thinking about that ugly chandelier. So all of a sudden, you know, your house becomes not anything that they can see to make an offer on, because all they're focused on is that ugly chandelier, and you don't want that.
Right, and a chandelier is something, again, that's not very expensive to replace.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And let's just be honest about it. As time goes by, I mean, there are things that we do that were really popular at the time that everybody was doing it.
Exactly.
And you get about 10, 15 years removed from it, and you're like, everybody's looking at it like, what were we thinking, and that's ugly.
Absolutely. That's a good time. I like that when you said about 10 to 15 years. Yeah. That's a good time frame to go off of in terms of if you're evaluating.
Right.
Like, is my house updated? It's like, well, if you last updated your house in 2000 and it's 2018, chances are your house isn't updated.
Right. And I mean, I remember we went to open house. We went to the broker preview. Yeah. And one of the homes had green carpet throughout. And I was talking to an older agent, and I'm like, who puts green carpet in the home? What was it? And he looks at me and he goes, well, I used to have that. That used to be popular back in the day. So
how many days ago, sir?
Like I said, I mean, we do things all the time. Have any of you guys ever looked at wedding dresses from the 80s? My gosh. Yeah. or tuxedos from the 80s?
Oh, yeah.
Like, what were we thinking? So we'll just leave that there. But just remember, whatever you did 10, 15, 20 years ago, that was the end thing.
It's probably not in anymore.
Right. Wallpaper. Which that house with the ugly green carpet had wallpaper.
Yeah.
And that was all, you know, I remember when my mom put up wallpaper in our house because it was the end thing to do at that time. You know, so wallpaper, again, that's something that, you know, you may not want to change it because it kind of can get expensive to, well, if you can figure out how to take it off yourself, because my first home that I bought had wallpaper. And I didn't want to take the time to, you know, or effort to figure out how to do it. Right. You know, it can be quite a process. So I hired someone to do it. I didn't mind paying for it. But if you don't want to do that, then like I said, this is something where you just look at that as far as how you're pricing the home. Correct. Right. Because again, today people are probably looking for more modern. I don't know how many people are even doing wallpaper intentionally anymore. So if you have something that's got wall-to-wall wallpaper, because really what you're doing with the price is you're basically trying to compensate whoever might buy the house so that they have more money to, undo the horrible things you've done to the house. No offense.
Wow, jeez. How you undo the horrible things you've done to the house. Wow, okay.
And like I said, there was a time for it, but now it's just it's a head scratcher now, I just got to say.
Oh, man.
Another thing that I notice home buyers always pay attention to when they look at the popcorn, or as they call it, acoustic ceiling. That's a big one.
I've never heard it being called acoustic.
Well, that's really what it is. Yeah, that's
interesting.
Yeah, I guess that's the professional term for it.
Oh, okay.
Acoustic ceiling.
I actually use that instead of saying popcorn ceiling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll start using that. Acoustic ceiling.
Yeah, because they know they're going to get great sound.
That's exactly what I thought of when he said it. I'm like, oh, cool, okay, it gets a great sound. I like that. It sounds better than popcorn ceiling. Because to me, popcorn ceiling has a negative connotation to it.
It does, mostly because of the asbestos that, that a lot of that used to have within it and whatnot. So, and it's all over the place. I mean, again, going back to my first property, I also had eventually to pay to get the acoustic or popcorn ceilings removed. Yeah. So that's also something that you want to consider as well as, in your price. You may not want to pay someone to get rid of it because, again, it gets expensive. Right. And you have to come in there basically and seal everything in your house with plastic. Right. High density plastic. And they're basically going to just be squirting water everywhere in your ceiling, scraping it off.
So that would be definitely something you'd want to do before you move in. Or if you move in, or if you have to move in, then make sure that you're going to cover all your stuff, obviously, or else you'll have a bunch of chipping all over your furniture. But if you can do that before you move in, I'll definitely recommend that. Depending, obviously, on the size of the house. I mean, it take a few days. I mean, if it's a smaller house, maybe it can be done in a day. But,
right. So as the owner of the house, if you're selling that, keep in mind that that's going to be a strike against you. So also keep that in mind in your pricing, I would say.
Absolutely.
Right. I know this next one, people have different views on. I know how I feel about it. All right. And we'll get to hear how you feel about it. Lots of personal items. And included in those personal items are pictures, family pictures of the house. A lot of people have their memories everywhere all throughout the house, hanging up in the living room, in the bedrooms. Someone am personally who thinks you should take those things down because, you don't want, I'm sorry, we all have preconceived notions about people.
Absolutely.
Right? And so you don't want any preconceived notions about, who you are as a homeowner or what you might have been doing to the house or what might have been going on with the house or also because when you come to the house, what you're trying to do is trying to imagine, yourself in the house, right? And what your family is going to look like and what you're going to be doing.
Yes.
And so that's a distraction to have your family looking them in the face with their family. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'll let you speak on that.
You took the words right out of my mouth, Wes. I mean, when I have my stager come and do the stager consultation, that's one of the things that she looks for, is to look at that stuff. And, because the thing is, you want a buyer to come to the house and you want their total focus to be on your house. Right. You don't want them to be like, do I know her? Do I know him? Did we go to the same high school? I don't know. She looks familiar. Oh, my daughter's name is Evelyn too, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want them to be so distracted when they go into your house that they don't remember your house. You know what I mean? It's like, as they leave the house, they're like, I wonder if I know that family. Right. It looks so familiar. I wonder if we go to the same church. I wonder if I know them. You know what I mean? That's the last thing you want. You don't want people to go in your house and think, well, do I remember these people? As opposed to, I really like the house, I want to write an offer. Right. And not to mention, safety-wise too, you know what I mean? Especially if you have young kids. Right. My stager always recommends to take the pictures down and also the names. Because there are a lot of people, they put like their babies' names on the wall, stuff like that. Or, if they're marking their height, how much they grow, they'll put like their name and stuff like that. My stager recommends them to take that down too. Right. Because there's no reason why, a person should know your children's name. I mean, just being, just being safe. And now that obviously my wife and I have our daughter, right. I that stuff I think about even more. I mean, to the point of even, when I'm in a public setting, I usually say, hey, baby, come over here. or anything like that. I don't say her name.
Right.
You know, just, you know, but I mean, that's just being a parent. You know, I guess that's how I think, you know, it's like, well, you know, like, hey, come over here. Hey, babe, come over here. As opposed to, hey, you know, Savon, come over here. And it's like, well, it was this way. You know, but maybe I'm thinking too much into it. But as a parent, that's how I think. And like I said, you know, for me, I would prefer you take down the family pictures just because I don't want anyone distracted. People don't need to know your business.
Right.
The focus is they go into your house for the main reason to see if they want to buy this house or not. Right. That's it. That's that's the only reason they should be going into your house. So I go with Wes. I could go with his option. Take all that stuff down. Have the primary focus on your house.
Yeah, and then as far as other personal items, I would also say this too, as far as like your closets and things like that. If your closets are really cluttered, like if you're to the situation where there's like not an inch of daylight in your closet because you have so many clothes stuff in there.
Right.
I don't know where you put them. I don't know, you know, where you can hide them.
Yes.
I personally would take some of them out, space it out, because now instead of someone going in a closet saying, oh, this is plenty of space for my stuff.
Right.
They're like, I don't know if this closet's big enough.
Absolutely.
And you might just have an insane amount of clothes. And the same thing with shoes. I mean, like I said, take some of those things out, make it look spacier, you know, make it look like it has more room, and it's just going to look more appeasing, and they're going to have a better feeling about what's going on there.
Absolutely. And buyers do check closets. So just letting you know that they do open the closets to check, you know, how much space is in there. Because the thing is, too, like, you know, Wes was saying, even if you have like a really large closet, the fact that if you pack so much stuff in it and it looks stuffed, people are going to naturally assume that it's small.
Right.
Even though physically you look and it's like, wow, this is a large closet, but the fact that everything is so pushed in there, people are like, well, this closet doesn't fit my clothes. Even though it's a large closet, they probably will fit your clothes. Right. You know, but it's just the first impression that they go off of.
Yeah, and I mean, people look at these things. I've several times we've been, you know, on the caravan looking at homes. Right. And there have been homes that have libraries or offices, and they have books out. Hey, I go look at what books are on the shelf. If they got DVDs out, I go look. What kind of DVDs do they like?
Right, exactly. What kind of person is this? What kind of books do they read?
I'm just telling you. I mean, it's natural. It's
absolutely.
It's a natural human reaction.
Exactly. Curiosity.
Okay. Here's another one. I've experienced this before from time to time. Okay. I'm pretty sure you don't let it happen in your case, but sellers who hang around the house for the open house.
Oh, no. That's a no-no.
Yeah, I've been to open house before with the sellers there. I mean, you're just walking through the house and there they are on the you know, in their bedroom watching TV. It's weird. Yeah. It feels like you're walking through someone's life.
Absolutely.
It's like the Truman Show. Like,
absolutely.
I don't belong here.
Absolutely.
And it's uncomfortable because now instead of taking your time and really getting an idea for the house and looking around and whatnot, now you feel like rushed, you feel uncomfortable. And again, it's kind of the same situation with seeing the picture frames, right? Only now they're live and in color. Right. Right. So it's a distraction to me. So I think definitely, you know, sellers should go somewhere. You know, absolutely. Disneyland for the day, go on a road trip, you know, go catch a movie. Right. I don't know, but I don't know, just uncomfortable walking through someone's house.
Absolutely. You know, I mean, it changes the dynamic.
Right.
You know, I mean, the thing is, you know, as a seller, you know, you agree to sell your house, right? So that's why it's important to take down those personal photos, because that's an initial step of the process. Right. Because I think if you leave your personal photos there, I mean, you still think this is your house. You still think, you know, this is my home. You know, this is my house. There's pictures of my family. This is my house. But the very first initial steps, when you start taking out those personal photos, you know, you start to become a little more detached from your house. Right. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, I'm really selling. I'm really moving forward. You know what I mean? And the thing is, when it comes to the open houses, you know, I mean, buyers go into a house, right? Yeah. They're going to be, a lot of them, they like a house. They're going to be vocal. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, yeah, first thing I'm going to do is I'm definitely going to update this kitchen. This kitchen's old. Right. Oh, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to update this master bath. You know what I mean? Like, oh, my God, okay, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to redo this front yard because I didn't take care of it or whatever. So, you know, buyers are going to be vocal about things that they do. Right. You know, now if a seller's there, you know, some buyers probably don't want to be vocal because they don't want to offend the owner, right? And like you said, I mean, you walking through a house and, you know, the seller's there, you may not be, you know, willing to take a closer look.
Right.
You know, it's like maybe this house could work for me, as opposed to, oh shoot, the seller's here. I'm just gonna make this quick and get out of here.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So it actually hurts a seller being at an open house than to be at an open house. Because I mean, I'm sure a lot of sellers probably think, well, hey, you know, if a buyer has a question, who better to answer the question than myself? Because this is my house, I live here, I know what's going on. You know, but for me, it's like, hey, you know, this is an open house. These are prospective buyers that are going to look at your house.
Right.
Who knows if they're going to be interested in your house? You know what I mean? Like they're going just to take a look. Now, you know, sometimes, you know, as we get into escrow, we'll do a home inspection. You know, maybe we'll go do a final walkthrough.
Right.
You know, and the seller will be there, which I'm fine with. Like I'm not gonna be like, oh my gosh, the seller's there, like they have to leave. Like I'm fine with that at that point because we're in escrow.
Right.
So my client has already made, you know, the commitment that, hey, we like this house, we want to go forward.
Right.
Right. So if the seller's there, that's fine because we've already made a commitment. You know what I mean? Not to mention that, you know, if the seller's there, we can ask some questions, which is always great too. But when it's the open house, you know, this is just. I mean, we're just going to look at a house. That's it. You know what I mean? It's not a true commitment. Right. You know what I mean? That's like let's say, for instance, that's like, you know, like going to like a bar or club to meet someone, a girl, boy, whatever, right? And you know, and their parents are there.
Right.
You know, it's like, you know, like I don't even know if I like you yet. Like, why am I meeting your parents? You know what I mean? As opposed to like, you know, you guys made a commitment, you know, you set a date, I mean, maybe you go to her house or his house or whatever, you pick them up, or if you're going to meet in a place or whatever, just depending on how the situation is. You know what I mean? Then that's when, you know, it's okay if the parents, you know, you meet the parents or whatever, just depending on the situation. But yeah, man, I mean, this is just an open house. This is just to let people go and see, do the picture match the house. Right. You know, that's what it's about, right? Because at the end of the day, it's the pictures that draw people to go look at your house, and that's why it's important to make sure your house is clean, make sure that it's staged correctly, make sure your personal photos down. You want to make sure you're making the best first impression, because that's going to draw them in. Right. You know what I mean? Because that's what buyers are doing. Buyers are like, yes, this house looks great. I wonder if it looks that nice in real life. You know what I mean? So a lot of buyers kind of go into these open houses so they can kind of like, see, I knew that picture was misleading. I knew the backyard wasn't that big. I knew the kitchen wasn't that big. I knew that garage was smaller. I knew that master bathroom wasn't big. You know what I mean? It's like a lot of them are going into these open houses just to kind of justify, like, see, I knew those pictures weren't correct. So that's why it's important for you to make a very good first impression. And like I said, not have the sellers at open houses.
And that's a perfect segue. I'm glad you brought that up because the next item on the list is misrepresenting your home. Right. So, you know I've had situations before where it's supposed to be a 4-bedroom, but it's really a 3-bedroom and a loft. Oh, yes. Right? And that's something very important to people. Absolutely. If you say bedroom, they're imagining closet, door, you can shut it. Absolutely. You know, something like that. Absolutely. Or you might say views to Catalina, but there's like one room, one window, and one bedroom upstairs.
And you gotta like crawl, you know, up the window, maybe like squint an eye or something, and it's like, yeah, you know, if you lean this way, you know, you live here, you know, like this way, you can totally see it. You know what I mean? Yeah, for sure.
So things like that. I mean, it's better to just present the true, you know, the true great parts of the home. Absolutely. And let those sell themselves, as opposed to trying to make something else great about the home that's not really great, because ultimately people are going to come see the home, and what you're going to have is someone who's disappointed. Right. And again, it goes back to, you know, it's going to extrapolate into other things. So it's going to be like, well, if they were dishonest about this, correct, what else are they going to be dishonest about? Absolutely. And are they going to keep misleading me throughout the process? You know, so you're better off just telling, like I said, just really highlighting what works for the home, like all the great assets that are part of the home, as opposed to trying to create ones that really aren't there. Absolutely. And I know we've all dealt with that before too.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, unfortunately, you know, we do run into this in the industry, you know, but it's just so misleading. And you got to, I mean, obviously a lot of, you know, people don't really think about it, but, you know, the buyers have to take time to, you know, make time to go look at these houses, right? You know what I mean? You know, it's like, okay, perfect. Okay, this Saturday works for us here. We just have to make sure we're done by 2:00 because we have whatever. Okay, perfect. Okay, I got these 4 houses we're going to go look at. Okay, perfect. So this time is great. Okay, yeah, we love this house here, 4-bedroom. That's what we need. We need at least 4 bedrooms, right? And it's like, okay, perfect. We go look at these houses, and all of a sudden, one of the houses that they absolutely love, which is always the case. But it's never the house that's like, oh yeah, I really didn't like it anyway. It's always a house that's like, yes, we really like this house, and it's like, really? This is not a bedroom. Like, this is not going to fit anything in here. This, this is a loft. Like, this is not a true bedroom. Right. And it just leaves such a bad taste, in the person's mouth, and also to the agent, too. I mean, like, the agent's the one that's entering this information. You know what I mean? So, I mean, let's say if you're an agent, right, and all these houses in the street are all 4 bedrooms. Or, no, all these houses in the street are 3 bedrooms, right? And all of a sudden, this one has to be a 4-bedroom, but all the other houses that are same model and match are 3 bedrooms. This one's happened to be 4. I don't know. Light in your head should go off there. And not to mention, being a realtor, obviously, being in a specific area, you want to have a great reputation. You know what I mean? Because reputation means things. I mean, I've gotten offers accepted because of the fact that I had a good reputation. You know what I mean? I've worked with agents, a lot of it, some of it dealt with the relationship that we have, knowing that they are a responsible, an honest person. That also comes into play. But if an agent is going to put on a property like that, that's misrepresentation, why do they want to work with this agent? How do I know down the road you're not going to do anything very misleading that's going to affect my client? Right. You're going to put my client in harm's way. Right.
And I'm glad you brought that up because I say it all the time. This is an incredibly small world.
Absolutely.
The real estate world.
Absolutely.
Especially, in Orange County. So just before I got here, ironically, so there's a particular agent. I helped a young woman out of college a few years ago with the down payment assistance programs. I helped her buy a 1-bedroom condo in Orange. She chose to work with this particular agent. Then years later, I had my own buyer, and we submitted an offer on a particular home, and it happened to be that girl's agent that was the listing agent. So we got the listing for the home because she had a good previous experience with me.
Absolutely.
And then just before I drove in here right now, I received an email from her. She wants to refer a client to me.
There you go.
Right? So, and that's not the first time that's happened. So as far as, working with an agent more than once because they just happen to work in a particular market and they're getting multiple listings in that area. So
sure.
This is something that you want to be incredibly, aware of, your reputation and what people understand and what people know you for, because it is a really small world, and trust me, people talk.
Oh, for sure. Especially realtors and lenders and escrow and title.
Absolutely. So number 9, poor curb appeal. And keep in mind, I mean, the outside of the home, and even if you don't have a lawn, even if you have a condo, the outside of the home it's the first impression.
Absolutely.
Right? That's the first thing you see of the home. So if you have a home where you have a front yard and things like that, obviously you want to get a landscaper in there or do it yourself.
Yeah.
But, mow the lawn, I don't know, do something to make it look green, spray paint it. No, I'm kidding. That goes back to what we were just complaining about.
Right, exactly. Misrepresentation, right? Yeah, because there are some agents out there that do have photographers that can do that little Photoshop stuff. Yeah. You know what I mean? Say, look, see your lawn is dirty.
Right.
Let me make it green. Let me make it pop, Right. And for me, I always go with honesty is the best policy. So actually, I do actually had a person ask me if they want to do that one of my listings because the front yard was a little patchy, like wasn't all green. They're like, oh, well, I can fill it in and make the pictures all green. I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. Right. Because I don't want to be that guy, that's very misleading and people come to my listing and they don't get what they see. I don't want that reputation. My reputation means a lot to me. You know what I mean? That's why when I get a 5-star review from my clients, I'm so grateful for those. You know what I mean? Because, that just shows that I'm doing the right thing. I'm doing the right thing for my clients. Right. You know what I mean? And like I said, reputation means everything to me. So I would never, ever, ever want to create a reputation that I could be misleading or manipulative because what's the expression? It takes a long time to build a great reputation, but it only takes one mistake to ruin it. Right. Yeah.
So as far as like I said, the curb appeal, you might have the lawn mowed. If you have bushes and things like that, have them manicured and trimmed.
Right.
Whatever whatever decorational items you have out there, wipe them down. Make sure they're not dusty. Make sure it's not cluttered. Make sure it all flows together. Same thing if you have a condo. If you have things outside, maybe you have potted plants or you have a barbecue grill or something like that. Wipe it down, clean it off, make it look good, make it look shiny again. You got things hanging on the door and whatnot. Wipe them down, make it look good. Because like I said, that's the first impression they're going to have of your home, and that's going to set the expectation for the rest of the home. And again, it goes back to, their perceptions of you as a homeowner and how well you've taken care of the property.
Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. Because I've had buyers not want to go look at a house because of what the front looked like. We have it scheduled and everything like that, and they drive and say, "Oh, Qierre, I don't want to leave this house."
Right.
It's like, really? It's like, yeah, like the front yard is horrible. I don't want to look at it.
Right.
So that curb appeal is very important. It makes that first impression. But don't get me wrong. Obviously, I've sold houses that maybe the front appeal wasn't as great, but they had other contributing factors. You know what I mean? Maybe being in the house that had a pool, how the pool being remodeled, maybe then also the inside of the house being totally remodeled. So there's other factors that contribute to it. But if there's any situation where you can make your front yard better, then totally do that, because that would only help you. It will never hurt you to make it better. But obviously, if you have a budget and you can't afford that, then there are ways that we can help elevate other areas of your house that we can focus on.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh, well, you have a really great kitchen, you have a really great pool. Like for one of my clients, we did that. So we pretty much added more to like the pool, how beautiful and how nice the pool was. And we ended up selling the house, multiple offers, sold our asking, set a new record in the neighborhood, But what we did, we just focused on a different area of the house. Obviously, every seller doesn't have that opportunity. So that's why the first impression and the curb appeal being so important.
Right.
It's like, hey, like if there's anything else we highlight, we would, but we really can't. So let's focus on what we can do to the front. And a lot of these things aren't too expensive. You can put, what's that stuff called? The stuff you put in the yard.
What, manure?
Well, not manure, but the manure that helps grow or whatever. Okay. But like the red stuff, you see sometimes red, it's different colors. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, like you can put that, because the thing with manure sometimes smells. So you might make that look bad. It's like, whoa, this is fresh.
That goes along with the pet smell.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Right. Well, I find that as far as the curb appeal, I look at it as this. It's like your clothing. Okay. You may not be able to afford a $5,000 suit.
Absolutely.
But you can still have a nice suit that's tailored to fit you.
Correct.
Right. And you just accessorize properly and just you can have it ironed, right? You can make sure you're not wrinkled. You can make sure you're matching.
Yeah.
You can make sure you present it properly, even if it's not, a Calvin Klein, right? So same thing with your front yard and everything else in your house. Even if your lawn isn't, illustrious and green, just in general, make the whole yard look good.
Right.
The best you possibly can. So make it look, like I said, organized, manicured, you know what I'm saying? Make it look neat, the best you can. Don't just say, or throw the baby out with the bathwater and be like, you know what? I got a few bald spots on the lawn, so I'm going to let the bushes grow wild. I'm going to let everything be dusty out here and, pots falling all over each other.
Right.
The whole thing look neat.
Right, exactly. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because as long as it looks good, things like the lawn or whatever, there are a million different ways that you can deal with that as a home buyer.
Absolutely.
And you're probably thinking, you know what, I can, come out and pay people to, put that grass down that, that's already stripped and everything.
Absolutely.
I've even had people that said, you know what, I'm going to put in AstroTurf. I don't ever want to deal with
Right, exactly. So that's perfect. Yeah. So then they're kind of like, oh, that's perfect. I don't have to worry about ruining a really nice yard.
Yeah. So
sure.
if you don't make it look neat, though, you'll never get that far. So lastly, number 10, clutter. And this is one of my personal pet peeves. So obviously, when you have the house listed, people will go through the house and they'll pull everything down as much as they can. to try to make the inside of the house not look cluttered.
Correct.
But what do they do with the cluttered items that they just took down? They shove it all in the garage. And I, for one, I know it's more money, and I don't like to spend other people's money and run in their pockets. But I would suggest you get one of the pods.
Uh-huh.
I think you'd be better served getting one of those pods and putting that stuff in storage.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's only going to be for a short period of time.
Yeah.
And, you can get like the smallest one. It's not very expensive.
Yeah.
And put that stuff there because, again, the garage is important to a lot of people.
Uh-huh.
And it's part of the overall, the overall feeling of the home. And I literally have seen garages where you can't even go in them.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a little sliver of a walkway. It looks like something out of an Indiana Jones movie, right? And the treasure's at the end of it. So just pay a little extra money and just put that stuff in storage so that you can keep the overall vibe and the overall, look of the house, together. I mean, you don't want it to look like something out of an episode of Hoarders.
Okay.
Right? That's my theory. So obviously take out the clutter in the home. And then, to me, don't just, go clutter the garage. Just,
See, I have a different feeling about that, Wes, to be honest with you. I mean, for me, like, for me, it's like, hey, if, like, for the most part, most of my clients, that's usually where we put the stuff in. We always put it in the garage, right? Okay. But there's a way to put your stuff in the garage without it looking cluttered. You know what I mean? Because the thing is, right, yeah, because the thing is, as long as you can go into the garage and you can see, okay, this is a 3-car attached garage, it has a lot of space. Right. Or this is a 2-car attached garage, it has a lot of space. You know what I mean? But when you go into the garage and you're like this, right? You know what I mean? And it's like, wow, like I can't even get in here. Then yeah, for sure, if it's down that level, because for me, I want to reduce as much money that the seller's going to have to pay. Sure. You know what I mean? So the garage, if you can manage it and make it look organized, then yeah, use the garage. But if it comes to the point that it looks like an episode of Hoarders, you know what I mean? And the person really can't picture the garage and see what's in there, then yeah, totally got to do it. Because the thing is, too, is, some people may think, like, what are you hiding in here? Right. Like, is there a big old hole in the wall that I don't see because I can't see it because there's all this stuff here? Yep, absolutely. You know what I mean? Like, is there something on the floor because I don't see it because there's all this stuff here? And I won't be able to see it before we close escrow, because then that's when you start moving your stuff. So yeah, that can definitely affect, the sale of your house, just based off of there's too much clutter in the garage, because then it can create some type of doubt. You know what I mean? It's like, this person's so cluttered here and they have all this stuff here. Like, are they hiding something else? Right. How can I fully do a home inspection? Well, there you go too. Because, I mean, once you get an escrow, I would say 99.9999999% of buyers do have a home inspection. Right. A home inspector would even call that out, too. And say, hey, you know what? I couldn't complete the home inspection because there's too much stuff in the garage. I couldn't see the side of the walls. I couldn't see the floor because there's so much stuff. So if that does happen, then, what I would do as a buyer's agent, I would tell the sellers, like, listen, we need to complete this home inspection. So you're going to have to move that stuff somewhere else so we can actually complete this, because now you're creating doubt. Right. You know what I mean? And my home inspector can't do his or her job because there's all this stuff here. So he can or she can't give a clear indication of what is wrong, what's not. Right. You know what I mean? So for the garage, I would say, you got to put your stuff there, but make sure that it's not cluttered to the point where there's doubt. Right. And of course, it also depends on how much stuff you're moving into the garage. Absolutely. Absolutely. If you're moving a handful of items in there, like I said, you can organize and make it look neat. Right. But like I said, that situation where you've been collecting things since the 1970s, whatever you're collecting, and you're like, hey, I can't let it go. Let's put it in the garage. Like I said, you can't move through the garage. You can't really see everything. Haven't been able to park in years in the garage. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, it's not going to cost you much to storage. Really. Yeah, for sure, definitely. Sure. At that point, maybe some of that stuff you can just probably give away. If you haven't used it in the last couple of years, probably not worth much. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that concludes our list, and I think we gave out some pretty good information. Absolutely. For our sellers out there, and things to look for if you're a buyer. Oh, for sure, definitely, yeah, for sure. I mean, we actually are starting to see a change in the market. It started about, I would say, the second week of April. I mean, we definitely started seeing a difference in the market. We started to see more homes come to the market, which is good.
Right.
But we also started to see houses be on the market a little longer. So it looks like we're in a seller's market. Not a very strong seller's market like it was, 2 months ago. But we're still in the sales market, right? Sure. So sales market is typically houses that are being sold between 30 and 60 days, right? So once homes start to be on the market a little longer, we typically go from the seller's market to what's called a balanced market.
Right.
So it looks like since the second week of April, we're starting to trend towards a balanced market. Sure. And when that happens, it pretty much becomes equal in terms of the many houses that are on the market and the buyers. So what that does, it creates competition both ways, right? So a lot of these sellers, they're going to have to be a little more realistic when it comes to their asking price because now they're going to have to start to have more competition. It's like, your house is in the neighborhood, right? But there's other 2 or 3 houses that are the same model like yours and upgrade just like yours.
Right.
So you trying to get 30,000 more may not be as advantageous as opposed to trying to get 10 or 15. That might be a little more realistic. You know what I mean? So we're starting to see that change in the market. But obviously, if this was back in January, February, March, hey, you're the only house in the neighborhood. Like, you can reach for the stars if you want to. Doesn't mean you're going to hit them, but at least you can reach for them. But now it's like, hey, you got competition. Now it's more like, all right, I got to price correctly or else I'm going to end up chasing the market in some house for less dollars.
So, right. So it sounds like the listing agents are going to have to start earning their money again.
Huh? What are you talking about, Wes? We earn our money all the time. How dare you say that? How dare you say that?
Just going to have to put a lot more into it, though.
Absolutely. Definitely. Yep. Well, do we have any questions regarding the 10
cardinal sins of home sellers?
The 10 cardinal sins of home sellers. Do you have any questions? Thank you, Maxine. Yes, I appreciate you like the great info. Love that. Yes. So do you have any questions? We'll stay on for a few more minutes. See if we have any questions that come up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So, Star Wars.
Of course. May the Force, right? Yes.
Yeah, it was, I don't know if you saw it posted on Facebook, but it was this whole story about George Lucas and how hard it was for him to get that movie made. And how everybody's like, no one wants to see science fiction. The actors who were in it all thought it was going to be a failure. They cut his budget, made him take a pay cut to get the movie made. And all these, issues, production issues, in and out of, the sequence of making the movie and whatnot. And obviously he got it made. They didn't advertise it very much. Basically, it became a fan following. That's basically how it, how it grew. And I was just so inspired by that story because it's one of those situations where, like, when and you have the convictions of what it is you're trying to accomplish, what it is you're trying to build, or whatever. Yeah. Even when nobody else can see it, and you're the only person who can see it. Yeah. You have to ride with that, and you have to see it through. So they were talking about how by the time he finished it, it didn't match up with his vision of it. Wow. So he took, I think he spent an additional 40% or add an additional 40% to the budget to make it closer to his vision of it. And it's just, such a great thing. Like when you know, right. And when you're the only one who can see it, right. Even if you're the only one, you have to push forward. And eventually everyone else will see what you see. And now, you've got a film franchise that worldwide has made over $27 billion with a B. Wow. It's going to be in Disneyland. I mean, it's going to be a Star Wars land in Disneyland. Right. And people were telling him he was lame. Yeah, for sure. I mean, like you said, it just goes to believing yourself. Yeah. Even though the voices that you hear from others is going in the opposite direction. Yeah. You just have to have that conviction. Yeah, for sure. And like I said, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. all the bugs. Watched all the movies several times.
So do you have a favorite?
A favorite movie?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think it would have to be. It's a close tie between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's kind of hard.
It is. I mean, they were. Yeah. I mean, they were. Both such great movies. I mean, you had the first showdown between Luke and Darth Vader.
Yeah.
The introduction of Lando Calrissian, Cloud City, all that.
Yeah.
Han being frozen in a block of carbonite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you have the next one. Luke's finally a Jedi.
Yeah.
Finds out his sister. Spoiler alert, guys. Finds out his sister is Princess Leia.
Yeah.
Just they were both. You got the Ewoks.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Interesting. So, I mean, how did you like the new ones?
I liked them all. Just fine.
Mm-hmm.
Which new ones? You mean the prequels?
Prequels, yeah. Sorry, yeah, the prequels.
They could have been better.
Okay. Yeah.
They could have been better.
Yeah.
I saw some repetitiveness from the original trilogy,
mm-hmm.
but they could have been better. I would have hired different actors in some cases.
Okay.
I was not a fan of the person Kristen Haydenson. I was not a fan of him as Anakin Skywalker.
Okay.
Really liked
Obi-Wan. Yeah, Ewan McGregor. He's a good actor. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like Samuel L. Jackson. Although I thought Morgan Freeman would have been better for the role. Morgan Freeman just looks like he was born a Jedi.
Okay.
He sounds like it. I mean, come on, man.
Well, yeah, very wise for sure.
Yeah,
how he talks.
He's got the voice.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I can totally see where you get that from for sure.
Yeah, he was born to be a Jedi.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so all that was cool.
Yeah.
The newer ones,
mm-hmm.
good. There are certain things I do a little different, but
yeah.
Rogue One was great. That was excellent.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to the new Han Solo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So yeah, it was hard to watch Han Solo die. Yeah, but and the coolest thing to me, and what I've always loved about the Star Wars movies, my favorite thing is the backdrops of the different planets. Because I'm someone who's always, I'm kind of a science fiction nerd. I'm someone who's always, imagined about the possibilities of what it would be like if you could go to, different galaxies and different planets, and how,
for sure.
Like a planet where the ocean's purple and the sea is, or the sea is purple and the sky is yellow. I mean, how cool is that? Laker colors, by the way. But anyway, just different things. So I've always, no matter what the movie is, I've always really enjoyed the scenery and the backdrop of the different, the different planets. Bespin, it's basically it's one type of planet, and then you've got Hoth and in the moon Endor, and I mean, and especially in the newer ones, the last one that came out, was it the Last Jedi? I mean, the different worlds they were on. I mean, they were really cool.
Yeah, for sure.
I always love that part about it, and the different life forms.
Yeah, I mean, that takes a genius to be able to come up with those different ideas, and not to mention they speak languages too.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the different life forms, and think about what it would be like if you could go to different planets and different galaxies.
Yeah, absolutely.
What kind of life forms and sentient beings, and what kind of environments they would have and things like that. Yeah, that'd be really cool. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Well.
Thanks for geeking out on us. We appreciate that, man.
No problem.
And as always, today, may the force be with you. Right? That's how you do it. May the force be with you.
That's if you're trying to do a Jedi mind trick on someone. You know?
Oh, okay.
You sound like the George you're looking for.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, as always, we appreciate watching our videos. Tomorrow, Cinco de Mayo. A lot of people are celebrating Cinco de Mayo today. So, as always, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your likes. We totally appreciate it. Have a great weekend. Have a great Cinco de Mayo. May the force be with each and every one of you. And I'll let Wes close it out.
Be assertive. Be proactive. Have a great weekend.
All right.